Once upon a time, in a field of golden wheat, lived an ant and a grasshopper. The field was vast and beautiful, with golden stalks swaying gently in the breeze. The sun shone brightly, casting a warm glow over the landscape. It was a perfect summer day, and the air was filled with the sounds of nature. The ant was always busy, scurrying back and forth. He was a diligent worker, never stopping to rest. From dawn till dusk, he would be seen carrying tiny crumbs and seeds, always on the move. His tiny legs moved swiftly, and his determination was evident in every step he took. He carried crumbs and seeds, preparing for the future. The ant knew that the warm days of summer would not last forever. He understood the importance of storing food for the cold winter months. Each crumb he carried was a step towards ensuring his survival when the harsh weather arrived.
Why do you work so hard? Summer is for singing and dancing. The grasshopper, with his carefree attitude, couldn't understand the ant's relentless work ethic. He believed that life was meant to be enjoyed, especially during the beautiful summer days. The grasshopper loved to dance and play music, filling the air with his cheerful tunes.
The grasshopper, however, preferred to relax. He would often be seen lounging in the shade, enjoying the gentle breeze. The grasshopper believed that there was no need to worry about the future. He was confident that there would always be enough food and sunshine to go around. He spent his days playing music and enjoying the sunshine. The grasshopper's melodies were light and joyful, echoing through the fields. He would strum his fiddle and sing songs, bringing a sense of happiness to the surroundings. The grasshopper's carefree nature was infectious, and he often tried to convince the ant to join him in his revelry. The grasshopper often laughed at the ant. He found the ant's constant work amusing and unnecessary. The grasshopper would mock the ant, saying that he was wasting his time. He couldn't understand why the ant would choose to work so hard when there was so much fun to be had.
Why do you work so hard? Summer is for singing and dancing. The grasshopper repeated his question, hoping to persuade the ant to take a break. He wanted the ant to see the beauty of the present moment and to enjoy life as he did. The grasshopper's voice was filled with enthusiasm and a sense of freedom.
The ant, though, knew that winter would eventually come. He was wise and foresighted, understanding the cycles of nature. The ant had experienced the harshness of winter before and knew that preparation was key to survival. He continued his work, undeterred by the grasshopper's taunts. He continued to collect food and build his shelter. The ant's home was a small but sturdy structure designed to withstand the cold. Each piece of food he stored was a testament to his hard work and dedication. The ant's efforts were not just for himself, but for his entire colony. The grasshopper thought the ant was silly. He couldn't fathom why anyone would choose to work so hard when there was so much joy to be found in the present. The grasshopper's laughter echoed through the fields, a stark contrast to the ant's silent determination. He believed there would always be enough food and sunshine. The grasshopper's optimism was unwavering. He trusted that nature would provide for him, just as it always had. The grasshopper's days were filled with leisure and pleasure, a stark contrast to the ant's tireless efforts. He continued to play his music, ignoring the ant's warnings about the coming winter. The grasshopper's tunes were a constant reminder of his carefree attitude. He chose to live in the moment, disregarding the ant's advice. The grasshopper's music filled the air, a symbol of his belief in the abundance of life.
Winter will come, and we must be prepared. The ant's voice was calm and steady, filled with the wisdom of experience. He knew that the seasons would change, and with them, the challenges of survival. The ant's message was clear. Preparation was essential for the future.
The grasshopper thought the ant was silly. He couldn't understand why the ant would choose to work so hard when there was so much joy to be found in the present. The grasshopper's laughter echoed through the fields, a stark contrast to the ant's silent determination. He believed there would always be enough food and sunshine. The grasshopper's optimism was unwavering. He trusted that nature would provide for him just as it always had. The grasshopper's days were filled with leisure and pleasure, a stark contrast to the ant's tireless efforts. He continued to play his music, ignoring the ant's warnings about the coming winter. The grasshopper's tunes were a constant reminder of his carefree attitude. He chose to live in the moment, disregarding the ant's advice. The grasshopper's music filled the air, a symbol of his belief in the abundance of life. grasshopper loved the warm summer days. He would lie in the tall grass, feeling the sun on his face. His music filled the air, attracting other grasshoppers who danced and played along.
Why work when you could play?
The grasshopper thought he had the best life. Why work when you could play? He believed happiness came from carefree fun. He didn't understand the ant's constant need to work. The ant, meanwhile, continued his preparations. He knew that the beautiful summer weather wouldn't last forever. He worked diligently, collecting and storing food. He wanted to be ready when the cold winds blew. As the days grew shorter and the leaves began to change color, the ant worked even harder. The once green foliage turned to shades of amber and crimson, signaling the inevitable arrival of winter. The ant, with its tiny yet determined steps, scurried about, collecting food and storing it meticulously. Each leaf that fell was a reminder of the urgency of his task. He knew winter was coming, and he needed to be prepared. The ant's diligence was unwavering. He moved with purpose, gathering every crumb and seed he could find. His tiny legs carried him back and forth from the fields to his anthill, where he stored his precious finds. The ant understood the harsh reality of the cold months ahead and the importance of his preparations. He carefully counted his stores, making sure he had enough food to last. Each day he would take stock of his supplies, ensuring that nothing was wasted. The ants' home was a bustling hub of activity, with every member of the colony contributing to the collective effort. They worked in harmony, driven by the shared goal of survival.
Winter is coming and I must be ready. The ant's resolve was firm. He knew that his hard work would pay off when the snow began to fall. His determination was a testament to his understanding of the natural world and the cycles that governed it. The ant's focus never wavered even as the days grew colder and the nights longer.
The grasshopper, however, continued to sing and dance. Unlike the ant, the grasshopper was carefree and enjoyed the warmth of the sun. He played his instrument and sang songs, filling the air with music. The grasshopper's days were filled with joy and leisure, a stark contrast to the ant's tireless efforts. He noticed the changes in the weather, but didn't think much of it. The grasshopper saw the leaves changing color and felt the chill in the air, but he dismissed these signs. He believed that there was plenty of time to prepare, and that food would always be available. His carefree attitude blinded him to the reality of the approaching winter. He assumed he could find food and shelter whenever he needed them. The grasshopper's confidence was unshaken. He lounged in the sun, enjoying the last warm days of the season. He believed that his luck would hold, and that he would always find what he needed. The grasshopper's relaxed demeanor was a stark contrast to the ant's industrious nature. The other grasshoppers joined in his carefree attitude. They too sang and danced, reveling in the present moment. The group of grasshoppers shared the same belief that there was no need to worry about the future. Their laughter and music filled the air, creating an atmosphere of joy and contentment. They saw no need to worry when life was still full of music and laughter. The grasshoppers' days were filled with merriment. They played their instruments and danced, enjoying the abundance of the season. The thought of winter seemed distant and unimportant. Their focus was on the here and now, and they saw no reason to change their ways. They ignored the ant's warnings about the approaching winter. The ant tried to warn the grasshoppers, but his words fell on deaf ears. He spoke of the cold and the scarcity of food, but the grasshoppers were too engrossed in their revelry to listen. The ant's concern grew as he watched them squander their time.
There's always time to find food later. The grasshopper's response was always the same. He believed that there was no rush, and that he could find food whenever he needed it. His carefree attitude was infectious, and the other grasshoppers echoed his sentiments. They all believed that there was plenty of time to prepare.
They ignored the ant's warnings about the approaching winter. Despite the ant's best efforts, the grasshoppers continued to live in the moment. The ant's warnings were a constant reminder of the impending cold, but the grasshoppers chose to ignore them. The ant could only hope that his preparations would be enough to see him through the winter. Winter arrived, bringing with it a blanket of snow and icy winds. The once vibrant landscape was now a desolate, white expanse. The trees stood bare, their branches weighed down by the heavy snow. The air was filled with the howling of the wind, a constant reminder of the harshness of the season. The grasshopper, caught unprepared, shivered in the cold. He had spent the summer singing and dancing, enjoying the warmth and abundance, never thinking about the future. Now, he was paying the price for his lack of foresight. His thin body was no match for the biting cold, and he struggled to find any warmth. The once plentiful food was buried under the snow. The fields that had been full of grains and seeds were now covered in a thick layer of ice. The grasshopper tried to dig through the snow, but it was futile. The food was out of reach, and his strength was waning with each passing day. He had no shelter and no way to find food. The burrows and nests that other creatures had prepared were closed to him. He wandered aimlessly, his hope dwindling with every step. The cold seeped into his bones, and he knew he couldn't survive much longer without help.
I should have listened to the ant's warnings. He had told me to prepare for the winter, but I was too busy enjoying myself. Now I am suffering the consequences of my actions.
Exhausted and hungry, the grasshopper stumbled upon the ant's hill. He had no other option but to seek help from the very creature he had ignored. His pride was gone, replaced by a desperate need to survive. He remembered the ant's warnings about winter. The ant had been diligent, working tirelessly to gather food and build a shelter. The grasshopper had laughed at him, thinking he was wasting his time. Now those memories haunted him, a constant reminder of his foolishness. He realized, too late, that he should have worked harder. The ant's words echoed in his mind, and he felt a deep sense of regret. If only he had heeded the advice, he wouldn't be in this dire situation.
Come inside, my friend. You look like you need some warmth and food. The ant's voice was kind and understanding, a stark contrast to the harshness of the winter outside.
The ant, seeing the grasshopper's desperation, welcomed him into his warm and well-stocked home. The inside of the ant's home was a stark contrast to the outside world. It was warm and cozy, filled with the smell of stored food and the soft glow of a fire. He shared his food, even though the grasshopper had not prepared for himself. The ant's generosity was a lesson in compassion and kindness. He didn't scold the grasshopper or turn him away. Instead, he offered him a place to stay and food to eat. The grasshopper learned a valuable lesson that winter. As he sat by the warm fire, he realized the importance of hard work and preparation. He vowed never to make the same mistake again. The ant's kindness had saved his life, and he was determined to repay that kindness in the future. The story of the ant and the grasshopper teaches us a valuable lesson: hard work pays off. The ant, through his diligence and preparation, was able to enjoy the fruits of his labor during the harsh winter. He had food, shelter, and security. The grasshopper, who chose leisure over work, faced hardship and had to rely on the ant's generosity. He learned that there are consequences to neglecting responsibilities. This simple fable highlights the importance of planning for the future. It underscores the value of consistent effort. It shows us that hard work, while not always easy, leads to greater rewards in the long run.